Coming up on this episode of Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover.
Yeah, so you don't really want your accurate quarterbacks to be Anthony Richardson and the two Saints guys who are battling with a 45-year-old rookie. It does not bode well at all.
Welcome back to Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We're here with our NFC South preview. We've got a fantastic guest joining us, Mark from Atlanta Falcons UK. He's going to help talk through the Atlanta Falcons. And me, Joe, and Byron will talk through the other three teams. Gentlemen, how are you both doing? Joe, first episode back since he tied the knot. How's it feeling being a married man?
Not much has changed. It was a great weekend, but it's happy to be married. So I'll stick with that. That comment. So, yeah.
That's a good start. And your first podcast duties are talking about the NFC South off the back of the marriage, so off the back of the wedding. So fantastic stuff.
Yeah, one of the best. One of the worst divisions. You know what? There's some interesting teams. There's I had a lot of Saints slander last year when I went in on them hard, and it's probably going to continue this year. So looking forward to getting into all the teams. An interesting division.
I'll save those highlights for the end of the show. We'll talk about the other three teams first. Byron, how are you getting on?
Yeah, good, yeah. Still happily married, so, not quite as short as Joe, but yeah, all good. I look forward to talking about the NFC South.
Excellent. You're still...
And there'll be plenty of Saints slander coming from me as well.
Excellent. All right, well, I'll
just set the bar early.
I'll try and keep neutral. You're still happily married, and we've still no Micah Parsons contract or trade a week after the trade request. So, so that one's going to rumble. I can't wait for the announcement of these contracts 3 hours before the game against the Eagles in a month's time. Can't wait for that.
I take it at this point.
Yeah. We're not here to talk about Micah Parsons or the Dallas Cowboys. We're here to talk about the NFC South and mostly about the Atlanta Falcons. So let's get to it. It's me and Joe with Mark from Atlanta Falcons UK.
First up in our NFC South preview, we're going to be taking a look at the Atlanta Falcons. And we've got a very, very special guest joining us. We've got Mark from Atlanta Falcons UK joining us. It's the second time we've had you join us on the show. Mark, I think you helped us with we cursed the Falcons last year, I remember rightly. So they were 6-3. Everything was going well. And then you came on to preview the game against the Saints. And then that's when kind of things started falling apart. So no kind of momentum to ruin this time. But how are you doing, Mark? Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's almost like I've learned from being an Atlanta Falcons fan over the years that we're not used to having good things. So, it wasn't just you cursing the Atlanta Falcons in the later stages of last season. But I'd like to say we're always optimistic, but very cautiously, quietly optimistic again this season.
Yeah, understandably so. I think it feels like the Falcons are building into being kind of a really, really solid contending team. So hopefully this is the year, break some stuff, however many years it's been since it's had a winning record, and we'll get into that. But Atlanta Falcons UK, you guys are really, 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 really active. Seeing kind of the guys running, the accounts and channels. What have you guys been doing so far this offseason, and what have you got kind of coming up heading into the 2025 season?
I guess obviously we are one of those times during the off season where there's kind of you're kind of clutching at straws and stuff to talk about, right? And that's that is the honest sort of situation that we find ourselves in at this time of the year. Obviously, we're all just getting snippets of what's coming out of camp, and we're dealing with that information as it comes in. You only see the good bits and not necessarily the bad bits, right? But I think, for us, obviously, we've got the game coming up in Germany, which will be a great change of pace and a great experience for not just us, but all of our kind of fellow Atlanta Falcons fans across the UK and in Europe. So the Falcons already have kind of one of those fan allegiances with Germany, so it probably made sense that they were going there. We're still waiting for that call Atlanta, if you're watching. And our aim, as always, is just to keep trying to build the fan base and build the network that we have of like-minded Falcons fans or future Falcons fans. And me personally, I started to get behind the Falcons by accident, but they were good at the time, so I thought, happy days. This is a great sports team choice for me, which, as I've already said, as a Newcastle fan, isn't in my repertoire usually. But certainly, coming into this next season, we're very excited for what is potentially coming up.
You can't have both, Matt. You can't have a good Newcastle team and a good Atlanta team. It just doesn't work. You have to sacrifice one for the other, I'm afraid. So
Indeed.
It's just the way it is. But who knows? You might get both this year. We'll see. So let's get into it, I suppose. Let's get into our headlines. For the Falcons, birds of prey. Atlanta's defense gets nasty. New look front seven with first rounders Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. aiming to bring the heat in 2025. Question is, did they give up too much draft capital? I suppose let's deal with the first part of it. It's almost every year we just hear it. The Falcons are crying out for pass rush. We just hear it all the time. They've addressed that in the first round with 2 picks. What do you think of the players, first of all, Walker and Pierce? How excited are you to kind of have them as part of the defensive front?
I think I'm probably more excited about Walker just because he brings a bit more of a dual threat into that defense, right? I was relatively high on him during the draft, so I'm absolutely, massively happy with that pick. I think there's a lot said about kind of his height and stuff like that, and is he, big enough to? I think if anybody who has any sort of college football nous realizes what he did for Georgia and actually watches the tapes over his time at Georgia, then we've got a player on our hands. And for me, he's the way he talks, the way that he speaks about the city, and that is important, whether people believe it or not, and especially being a Georgia Bulldog as well, because Atlanta do not have a great history at drafting from just in their own backyard. So that, Walker for me was a home run. Really like the pick. To trade back for James Pierce, I think was definitely surprising. But then again, I was more surprised that he dropped. I know what you're going to ask if I don't address this, so I'll ask it and I'll address it. Is the character questions. Now, I take those on board, like everyone does. I do think that there was definitely some lesser. And I think Atlanta just looked at the situation, right? If Jalen Walker wasn't there, Atlanta, especially under Terry, in the front office, seemed to kind of just go and get their guy. If they believe enough in a guy, they go get him. We've seen that with Michael Penix last year. They didn't, they wanted to get him before the Raiders did, so that's why they made the call and made the pick. And again, I kind of just feel like they were getting towards the back end of that draft where they just thought he's probably not going to get into the second. If he is, it'll be early second. It'll be too early for our pick. So let's pick the phone up and try and make a deal for a guy who can make a difference. And anybody, character issues, stuff like that, that stuff can be coached with the right coach. And I believe we've got a good man managing coach in Raheem Morris. To be able to nurture that talent. So for me, it wasn't a shock that we went and got another edge rusher because we need as much pressure on that edge. We've been in the bottom pass rush stats for far too many years now, and we've done what we did last year. We had a real need at a position which we needed to future proof, and they went ahead. You lose next round's first, but guys, the Rams were doing that for years and managed to get a Super Bowl out of it. Now, I'm not saying Atlanta's going to the Super Bowl because we'll talk about that later on. But the feeling for me from this draft is that they realized that our defense was what let us down last year. That is the brass fact. So you got a problem, go fix it. And to me, you put a lot less pressure on that secondary if you've got pressure up front.
Yeah, no, that's a great shout, and you spot on. Like we've talked about it for years. I feel like we've been doing these previews for 3 years now, 3 seasons that we've been going, and every one we go, well, the Falcons got more pass rush. They need some more pass rush, and they've done it, and they've gone out and say address the problem, and yeah, it makes it a hell of a lot easier for those guys on the back end if people are getting to the quarterback on a more consistent basis.
100%.
Yeah, excellent. So yeah, the fee you talked about that, which was the question, was about the what it cost. Which is, yeah, I mean, it's not easy to trade back into the first round, and teams know you are. So you're going for a reason. So yeah, the cost is never necessarily fair or even. So, but look, they like the guy. They feel they're going to get two great pass rushers there, and if they hit, it's definitely worth the price.
Exactly right, and that's what everyone's looking at right now. You paid a lot for something, but you don't know if that's going to come to fruition over the. We might have, and I'm not saying we might have 2 of the best pass rushers in the NFL who are only going to get better for the next 3 or 4 years, relatively cheap. And we all know that good edge rushers cost money, right? So we went and got Matthew Judon last year, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I think more his feelings were down to the scheme that Jimmy Lake had put him in, but even still, it wasn't. It's not where we need to be. We need to go and fix the problem. So for me, it's you can't say it's bad value until you see how much it's actually getting you.
If it ends up being a mid-20s pick, then yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah, especially if they make the playoffs, like you said, if they get that playoff position, then yeah, it's fair enough. It's just that risk of an unknown player, and if you're around 13, 14 again, then it's like, wow, it is a lot. But like I said, it is a year in the making to make that a decision on that question. But
listen, 100%, it was ballsy, right? But this is a ballsy business, right? So I totally agree. But as we both know, as we all know, the NFL is one of those things. The draft is a lottery at the best of times, and. You just because you picked somebody up in the first round, it doesn't mean they're a home run. There's a lot of quarterbacks over the past 3 years that I could name that, not to besmirch any other teams or their quarterbacks, but there's been some busts, and then we're talking about top 5 picks. So
yeah, definitely, it's definitely the case there that there are no guarantees, but we'll see how. Pierce and Walker get on. I'm like you, Mark, very excited to see Jalen Walker. I think he'll be an incredible player in the NFL. Let's talk about the back end of that defense then next, because we've talked about the front. Safety first, the Falcons shore up secondary. Atlanta draft a pair of ball hawking safeties in Xavier Watts and Billy Bowman Jr. to complement aggressive front. Falcons are already pretty good at the back. So you've got Jesse Bates back there, certainly one of the best, the best safeties in football. They've added these 2 guys as well. Again, what you're expecting to see, you think, is this going to address kind of some of the problems you think maybe that they suffered with?
To my earlier point, one thing Atlanta do is if they like somebody, that's who they go and get, by hook or by crook. And I think Xavier Watts falling as far as he did was borderline criminal anyway. I think that was that was more of a oh my God, he's still there, and that's a real partner for Jesse, and a partner that can differentiate roles a little bit better than what happened last year when we had Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates in that same sort of backfield where they're both quite similar kind of players and almost cancel each other out at times. Whereas I think Xavier Watts, I'm really excited to see him. From the word that we've had for the first pre-season game we've got coming up, it looks like Billy Bowman's going to be starting at nickel. So, these guys have obviously come in and gelled into whatever Ulbrich wants to do. And this is one thing that we haven't touched on, is that this is going to be a very different Atlanta defense to the one that we seen last year under Jimmy Lake. And Jimmy Lake was a first-year NFL defensive coordinator, and Raheem, being the guy that he is, trusted. Experiment didn't work out, right? So what do you do then? You look at the market and you go, well, who's tried and tested? And Ulbrich, I mean, you could argue it's also because of Salah at the time, but Ulbrich had a top 4 defense at the Jets. And I just think they are turning this defense hopefully into a bit more of a nastier unit. And competitive players like Watts and Bowman, that's what I want. I want players to hate playing against this defense and not, rolling into town every week, confident that they're going to be able to come through us.
Yeah, it does, and that's ultimately going to be the bit that's going to take them, I suppose, over that. This hovering around kind of 500 where they've been in the obviously recent years, and this is what's going to take them over the edge.
Yeah, and listen, guys, the true conversation here is last year, Kirk's decline did not help, but Atlanta's true problem at the bottom of everything last year was that we could score, but we could not stop them scoring. And it is, and I seem to remember the game against Washington, towards the end of the season, and Daniels was on fire and all of that sort of stuff. But they were cutting through us like knives through butter. Even the Panthers managed it, even the Saints managed it, and it lads, I can't tell you how much it pains me to say that. So this is a great step in my view that Atlanta have gone. We need to make this defense nastier. We need to address the problems, because, and I'm sure we're going to go on and talk about the offense, but we don't need to. I don't feel like we need to worry about scoring points. It's the other side. That's what stops us losing games.
And we'll see, like I say, if they can make the step up. Let's talk about the offense. You mentioned there we're going to talk about it. Let's talk about the offense. And we mentioned a little bit Kirk's decline, so it's a good segue into this next headline. Yeah. Captain Kirk demoted to deputy. Kirk a move didn't materialise. Failed to secure a trade away to a starting role, which is what he was after.
Yeah.
Now going to back up Penix Jr. in his first full season as starter. I suppose let's talk about Kirk first. How was it kind of with that? Because I think there was a lot of optimism last year around, we know how good Kirk Cousins has been, how great he was at Minnesota. Yes, he was coming off that kind of rough Achilles injury.
Yeah.
But how did you feel about how the way it ended up playing out?
I think listen, I'm pretty sure we had this conversation the last time, but I don't think anybody really thought from a business point of view when they went and got Penix and they cemented their future and they said, this is our guy for the future, but we've almost Penix was like the insurance policy, guys, right? Because and an insurance policy against Kirk getting injured. Kirk didn't get injured. Kirk got found out. And I've got the utmost respect in the world for him. But the fact that, and you just alluded to it there, the fact that nobody came knocking, and there's still time for that, by the way. I read something last week. I haven't followed up on it, but Justin Fields went down in first Jets practice. Welcome to New York, because and that's really the position we're in. We've got ourselves in a daft position with the hit on the salary cap, and I get it. I'm not happy about it either, which is why I think they were looking for more of these impactful players on defense, because they know that actually, again, salary cap might be a bit of a challenge over the next couple of years. Kirk got found out. Defenses realized that he could not get out of that pocket. And he was better when he did, but he obviously wasn't comfortable doing it. And whether that be because of the injury, whether that be because, listen, guys, he's the same age as me. I don't have an Achilles problem, and I would still probably struggle, right? But ultimately what the Kirk that we wanted, the arm was there, but the movement wasn't, just doesn't cater to those kind of, old, like, slow gunslinging quarterbacks. You have to be either behind a 5-star offensive line, or you're in trouble, right? So I think it's really sad. I obviously seen things that Kirk said on the quarterback show about how he felt misled and all this sort of stuff. Okay, Kirk. Well, who else was going to pay you the amount of money that we paid you? Who was lining up, and who is lining up now? I don't mean to sound mean when I say this, but you're a backup now, Kirk. And unfortunately, we were the experiment that realized that we paid you too much money to be who you are. And that fit in the beginning of last season. It was great. And I felt the wheels were going to come off at some point, as we talked about last time. So I think we just have to, we bet a lot on Kirk Cousins, and if we hadn't have drafted Michael Penix, guys, which we all got mocked for at the time, and I was one of the kind of more agnostic on it. If we hadn't have had Michael Penix to give us some hope towards the end of last season, then burn the franchise down, because we would have been in a right now than we are now, because we got our guy. And it's kind of like, it just sounds horrible and it's not meant to, but I kind of hope that someone does go down so Kirk can go and have one last hurrah and we can kind of get this monkey off our backs. But for me, it was just, we found out who Kirk is now, and to our detriment, unfortunately.
Speaking of Penix, I think that's what we should talk about: the future, the present, and the future. As you got kind of a look at him over the last three games, wasn't it, last season? Did you like what you saw from Penix, and what you hoped for him in 2025?
I mean, I'd argue, like, who couldn't? Like, I mean, you could look at the stat lines, right? And I think there is a lot to say. Are we getting ahead of ourselves too soon? Our problem kind of really, really reverberated around, in my opinion. Zach Robinson came in, first year OC, from the Rams, and actually offensive scheme was pretty good. Happy for the most part. We struggled a little bit in the red zone, probably less so than how much we struggled under Arthur Smith. So I think, optimism for me and for those relationships that he seems to have with London, with Mooney. There's a lot of noise about how well he's connecting with Pitts. If you give us a quarterback that can make Kyle Pitts play like the player we expected him to be when we drafted him 4th overall, then I'll snap your hand off, boys, and Kyle Pitts will likely get franchise tag next season. And I think it kind of feels a little bit like right quarterback, right time. And everything that I watched in college kind of has seen. He gets his head on a swivel. He's got fantastic vision of that field. Whereas compared to Kirk last year, his best vision came when he was on the move, but he couldn't move. Right. Yeah. So if those relationships, like I say, London, Mooney, Pitts, Bijan, guys, I mean, it's for me, it's the most exciting offense I've probably seen since Matt and Julio.
Cool. Well, that's our next headline. So, George, you want to flash it up? I suppose, yeah. What are you expecting the difference to be then in terms of getting this offense to go? Because you've got the players, you've just mentioned them there. We just talked about Bijan, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. It's stacked with obviously this young, talent that's in the early stages of their careers.
For sure.
What's going to be the difference, I suppose, this year then to kind of unlock it all?
I think there's a couple of things, right? And the main one for me lies in the trenches. So there hasn't been many changes to the offensive line apart from Drew Dalman, our center, left for the Bears because we didn't want to pay him the money that he wanted, and that happens. So I'm kind of less than enthused with his backup, but I think it's something that you can almost scheme out of, as long as Ryan Newsill, I believe you pronounce it, just kind of sits there and gets in people's way. but apart from that, the offensive line is pretty solid, and the way that Michael Penix is going to have the most success with those stars that I've talked about is if the protection continues to be good to great. I think one thing that does spring to mind is, again, because that offensive line is remaining personnel-wise pretty solid, is Bijan's going to get all those opportunities to get through those breaks in the line and get off to the races. So I think that's a key thing. Like on the offensive side of the ball, trenches. I mean, I'm an ex-player and I played offensive line, so I'm obviously going to say this. I'm a trenches purist. And same on the other side of the ball. Obviously, we've just lost another kind of big, older kind of head, a big older voice in that dressing room, and Grady Jarrett, who's also gone to the Bears. And again, I was kind of starting to see, and I said it on our show, a bit of aggression, injury tendency. And they drafted Rook Ororo last season for a reason. They drafted Brandon Dawless last season for a reason, although he didn't see much game time last year. So again, if that defensive line is nastier, you've still got David Onyemata. So actually, if you're playing a front four, then Rook or Dawless need to come good. And you get those two boys moving on the edge. And all of a sudden, you've got a four-front defense that no quarterback wants to play against. And you've also got an offensive line that keeps the opposing defensive line guessing. So for me, trenches is the big ticket item that I think we've got to get right. And there's some young guys that are involved in that, but the younger guys are actually the ones who benefit from both of those things. And if you're doing things right in the trenches, I'm a big believer in trenches win championships rather than just defenses. But it's that has to be where we improve the most.
Excellent, good stuff, and they all brings the pieces together, then, doesn't it? Kind of that complementary football. Let's have a look some more.
And just I was going to say just on that. Sorry, just before I move away from the segment. One of the things that apparently has been flying around the internet about James Pierce Jr. is that he's actually got in quite a couple of scuffles with teammates on the offensive line because he's nasty, and to me, people go, oh, it's character issues. No. I want like I used to have defensive ends when I played on the offensive line that would throw me to the moon, and it was it's not, it's that competitiveness that has to be drummed into this team. They need to almost want to murder each other because that's how they're going to have to be on game day. So just a little link back there that I thought was quite poignant.
Good stuff. Let's roll on. Key transactions, we've talked about a lot of them already, Mark. But is there anyone I suppose we haven't talked about or touched on so far who you think is going to make a big difference for the Falcons in 2025?
I think we've probably touched on the new guys and the sort of key notable ones that have left. But one thing that I do think is a really, really good little pickup that doesn't get enough airtime purely because of the two guys that we drafted on the edge. Niners, for me, to be able to coach and almost mentor the likes of James Pierce Jr. And remember, we've still got Braylon Trice from last year, who, if you remember, I think it was an ACL that he did in preseason games. So we never actually seen him in an NFL game last year. So you got like three hungry young guys there, and Arnold Ebiketie as well, who started to find a little bit of juice last year. You got four guys that all bring something different to that line. And I think somebody like Leonard Floyd, with a career that is hard, it is just such a quiet but bold move to be able to have somebody who's been there, done it, and really kind of will have something to bestow to these young guys. So I think that was definitely a massive one, and I particularly liked another head in the room at linebacker. I think you've got it up on the screen there, Diablo. Our linebacker room, which is a little bit more depleted. One of the guys who left, who isn't on your graphic there, a guy called Nate Landman, who we picked up as an undrafted free agent a couple of years ago. Fantastic run defending linebacker, not great in coverage, but unfortunately, one of our draft picks from a couple of years ago, Troy Anderson, who was really meant to be kind of one of those main guys in the middle of that in the middle of that box, has been put on PUP. So we don't really know why at the moment, but I think just having another body in there for depth is another. I think you might actually see Atlanta line up this year with maybe Walker in the box a little bit more than people are expecting.
Nice. I'd like you shout on Trice as well, because I think, we probably all forgot about Braylon Trice a little bit, because he went down last, as you mentioned, in the preseason last year, but I was really excited to see him coming out of Washington last year, and sadly missed his full rookie season with that injury, and hopefully does kind of bounce back, and because, I think he could be a real big impact player for the Falcons. Good stuff. Have you got us, Mark? You all right there?
Yeah, I'm all good. Yeah, I just didn't know if you wanted. I didn't know if you wanted a response to that one.
I didn't know. Yeah, it just dropped out for a second, so I was like, I think it's dropped out while you were talking again. But
okay. No. I was just thought about a show up before I interrupted you.
No, you're all right. You are the guest. Feel free. Joe, should we start having a look at win totals for the Falcons? Let's have a look at that. So the line for Atlanta Falcon win total. Over under 7.5 wins, so 5 to 7 to hit the over, 11 to 10 to hit the under. So seemingly think somewhere around 7 to 8 wins is where the Falcons are at, is what the bookies are saying. How do you feel about that, Mark? Do you think that's right? And where do you think what record do you think they'll end up with?
Well, I mean, given the past couple of years, you'd argue that that's exactly where we've been. For the past 2-3 years, like sort of a 8-9 win team, not enough to get into the playoffs. And for me, if I'm putting my kind of optimist shoes on, like, really, I would expect double digits, right? But double digits can mean a lot of things, right? Am I saying we're going to be a 17 win team? No. But do I think that we're probably a victim of our own history here, and there's probably nobody that wants to really take a punt, because nobody knows actually and to your point earlier on about how so many young players on this team, and maybe a lack of some veteran heads, I think you kind of almost go, well, they haven't been very good, we haven't been great for a long time. Is there anything that would tell the bookies different? Well, yeah, I mean, a load of young kids with a load of potential, but we've seen how that's gone for some teams in the past, right? So I'm not surprised by those odds. Personally for me, I'll be looking for at least sort of 11, 12. But our schedule's tough this year, so they've probably looked at it on face value, and gone, maybe that's just who they are. But I would say that there are some teams that might be getting some favor in that prediction, who are on our schedule this year, who I am backing to regress. So I think double-digit wins this season is an absolute minimum requirement.
Excellent, cool, good stuff, and that would have break the run without the playoffs, break the so many losing seasons in a row. Joe, where have you got them? Where have you got the Falcons?
Yeah, I've got them at 9-8. So to hit over that 7.5. I think they're a really interesting team. It's hard, like we've talked about Penix, but he's definitely that quarterback where could he be a top 12 kind of quarterback, or is he going to be like 25th? He's got such a wide variety of where he could be just with the lack of just the 3 games. So, but I've got them at 9 and 8, challenging for that playoffs, that wild card, and in between them and Bucks fighting for that division, because I think I have the Bucks at 10. So it's just like
pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did my run a long time ago, so I'm due to do another one. But I had them at 7 and 10. So again, I've got them right around that line. Probably be 2 or 3 games out, as I usually am. So yeah, but I think like I say, the margins are thin, and this could be a team that does, to Mark's point, could end up winning 10, 11 games, win the division, be a bit of a disruptor in the playoffs.
I think the one thing that I would say is we had a good offense this season just gone, and we had a really bad defense. If somehow this season we go to a good to great offense and a awful to proficient to good defense, then our 8 and 9 record from last year, the amount of close games that we lost just because it was literally, they score, then we score, then they score, then we score, and I think what we've got to maybe consider is, obviously it's all about this team improving, and if there's more money to be earned, especially from betting that Atlanta Falcons could be a contender for the playoffs, then I think your odds are probably a little bit more tasty. I might have a look at that actually when I finish. So yeah, I can understand why the odds as they are as they are. We're a historical underachieving franchise. So I'll swallow both of your opinions, but I will optimistically disagree.
But that's good, and that's why it's great to do these kind of segments, because we're all in that point as well. As season starts, we all have that little bit of optimism. Our teams are going to be good. My team won't get to Dallas Cowboys, so we're going to be terrible. But point being that we're at that point. But yeah, I agree. Like I think I've got them 7 and 10, but again, there's so many close games. I think they were in so many 1-possession games last year. So
yeah, for sure.
Could definitely flip the way. But the interesting bit is, remember last year, obviously it was the Falcons and Bucks for the NFC South, and the Falcons beat the Bucks home and away. They won both of those games. But they were arguably probably 2 of Cousins' best performances.
Best games.
One of them was a 500-yard game out, and he had, I think that was the overtime game, and that still wasn't enough to pit the Bucks to the division crown. So we'll see kind of where they are. And look, Joe, do you want to pop on the playoffs a quick second for us? So to make the playoffs, 31-20 and no 10-19. Mark, key question: are they going to make it?
Yes. And I'll break down a couple of bullet points why, because I think Ulbrich makes this defense better, which I automatically think flips 4 or 5 of those results in Falcons' favor last year. I think we're going to see a re-emergence of Kyle Pitts as an offensive weapon, and I think people are going to be surprised to see what Michael Penix does. They're the 3 reasons that for me, I'm definitely seeing playoffs. And listen, guys, if we don't hit the playoffs, I think that probably means front office's job. Terry's likely gone, as well as potentially Raheem. So it's this is, there's a lot riding on this for that coaching staff, and they need to get it right. So, but I'll forever be the optimist, right? So
Absolutely.
My answer is yes.
It's got to be the way to do it. Excellent. Let's have a look then at the last bit. So they are 12-5 to win the division. So just over 2.5 to 1. I'll just short 2.5 to 1 to win the division, 30 to 1 to win the NFC, 70 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. So those are questions focus here is obviously the Bucs have had a bit of a stranglehold on the NFC South these last 4 in a row, isn't it? They've won. Do you think they're going to do enough to kind of topple the Bucs and win that division?
Yeah, because I don't think the Bucks are very good. Sorry, controversial take. I mean, they're good, but they're not. You know, I mean, they were one and done last year. Um, I, again, Baker's Baker. Like again, he's competent. He's great at times, but he had he had some stinkers last season. The team to me, doesn't scream like they have and pardon the pun, a huge amount of wind in their sails, right? So it's kind of like they're relying on us not getting better. There's a couple of key players. Mike Evans is great, but he's getting old. Bucky Brooks looks like a really kind of 10, like maybe top 10 to 20 running back. Yeah, he's good. Yeah, but like, is there anything that's really grabbing you with that team? No. So, in my honest, unbiased opinion, so and I think these odds are totally fair. Like, do we win the NFC? I mean, God, how are you going to get past the Eagles right now? It's difficult.
Falcons did beat the Eagles last year, of course, as well.
I was about to make that call.
Sorry.
You did it for me. I appreciate it. Now I don't sound so cocky. But again, that was almost borderline. Like, we were playing a really beat up Philly team. I'm more than happy to give it where it's due. We were playing a beat up Philly team, and they were going through some tough early season times at that point. So, but this is where it comes back to: do I think that if we make the playoffs, we will get to the NFC Championship? True fact of it is that, lads, our expectations are just to get to the playoffs. That's a win for us, right? And if we can stay healthy and if the stars can align, then you never know. But I think those odds to me probably feel fair enough. Division maybe slightly unfair, but like I say, I think that's more down to historical ineptitudes rather than potential. But then again, you don't bet with potential, do you? So.
Absolutely fair, awesome, good stuff. Hopefully good season for the Falcons. Again, there's so much excitement that feels it could be there for them, and we'll see if they can flip this NFC South. I was flipping it. NFC South. Just give us a quick shout out, Mark, before we let you go around. Again, where can we follow Atlanta Falcons UK and where we can keep up to date with you guys?
Yeah, for sure. So we, during season time, we're live kind of every week. We do kind of one-off shows just to have kind of bits of roundup now and again when there's stuff worth talking about. Otherwise, it's just four middle-aged men talking about the same things week on week. But we like to call it group therapy, where our podcast runs on all major social media and podcasting platforms, ATL Falcons UK. So you will be able to find us anywhere if you also need group therapy with us. And we try and break the game down as simply as we can. I'm usually the one for hot takes and just kind of talk out this weird addiction that we have with this team. We're also quite active on social media, so on all of the main platforms. Drop a follow if you're in need for some group therapy, and you can feel free to come onto our podcast and put messages into YouTube. We read out plenty of viewer comments and argue over those too.
Maybe you can take Joe. Joe's a big 49ers fan, so the Falcons have got the Niners in October, I think. So if you want to take Joe, feel free. But Mark, thanks ever so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. Good luck for the rest of the season. And everyone, make sure you go follow everything Atlanta Falcons UK. Handles are in the episode. Make sure you do it. We're going to jump on and finish the rest of the episode by talking about the Saints, the Panthers, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Thanks again there to Mark from Atlanta Falcons UK. Make sure you're following the guys at ATL Falcons UK. You check out their podcasts, YouTube. They've got lots of things going on. So go support the guys. Joe, Byron, back to discuss the other three teams, and we're going to kick off with the reigning NFC South champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's hit the headlines for Tampa. First one for the Bucs. Deja vu. Me and Joe battling with the banners at the bottom of the screen. Deja vu. Bucs lose OC to a head coach job. Liam Cohen takes the main gig in Jacksonville just 12 months after Dave Canales leaves to take the Panthers head coaching position. How much disruption? How difficult is it to deal with the disruption of kind of constantly kind of cycling through these offensive coordinators? Was they're leaving for the right reasons in terms of obviously they've been good and have been able to kind of go get that next opportunity as head coach, but how disruptive is it, especially for Baker, because it feels like even when he was at Cleveland, they kind of rattling through and changing OC time and time again.
Yeah, I think it's always difficult to change. I've seen it with Jalen Hurts. I think has had a different OC every year of his NFL career at this point. Baker Mayfield seems to have one every other year, if not every year. So it's not ideal, but Josh Grizzard, who is a new OC in Tampa, was already there as the passing game coordinator for a year. This is his first offensive coordinator job. He was with the Dolphins previously under Mike McDaniel. So I think between Liam Cohen, Mike McDaniel, those are two good offensive callers to learn behind. There's no guarantee of success, obviously, from anybody coming in. We've seen people from the Shanahan tree. Bobby Slowick comes to mind, who we thought was going to be hot stuff and was bombed out after 2 years after a successful first year. But I think what you do have in Tampa is really experienced players who know their place. Tristan Wirfs, obviously, I presume we'll get to at some point, is going to miss a start of the season for injury. But, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Baker Mayfield, those are guys who know how their offense runs, are excellent at it, very established, very skilled, very smart players. So I'd worry more if he was, if this was a Cam Ward as a rookie having the first time OC. You don't quite know, but I think of all the teams who have lost OCs, I think the Bucs are probably in a good spot to have, already started grooming that replacement.
Yeah, I think it helps being like an internal hire as well. I think if it was someone coming in, but obviously they did that with Liam Cohen, but he came from the Rams and he had a lot of praise when he got the Bucs job. So we'll see how it works. I think, the only thing which certainly with other teams, with Todd Bowles being the head coach, obviously he's going to focus on the defense and the defensive side. So, the new OC, his job is the whole offense. He's not leading on, like you mentioned, like a Mike McDaniel, like in his previous roles, but he's got that experience and he's learned under, at least top 10 offensive, top 5 offensive minds in the league. So, the Bucs just keep rolling on, and like you said, they've got that experienced team. They've been together for a long time, and Baker's used to this, so they're just hoping for it to continue and see how it goes.
Excellent. Let's move on to headline number 2 for the Bucs. Big guns limping into the season. Byron just kind of referenced it a little bit then, but wide receiver Chris Godwin coming off a season-ending ankle injury, and left tackle Tristan Wirfs due to miss the first few games. How big of an impact will it have?
I think the worst one's massive. It depends how long he's out for, because I've seen that he could come back in week 3, week 4, but also it could be longer as well. You never know with them kind of injuries, especially for the big men. But there's certain players, and you see across the league when the ultra talented, the top, it could arguably be one of the top 3 offensive tackles, where when they're out, the team changes completely. You see it with Trent Williams when he's at the 49ers. You saw it in Miami, you saw it, even the Eagles, if Lane Johnson went out, it would be a completely different team, especially the running game. And I think they had so much success with the running and how Bucky Irving stepped into that. I think having that offensive line helped, having a mean man like, Tristan Wirfs there to make some holes helped out massively. So I think that's the big one, because I think if he's out for an extended period, let's say 10 weeks, I think they're going to struggle. I think Baker's going to struggle because that's how important he is, to this organization. So I think he can get by with Chris Godwin. I'm always worried with Chris Godwin, especially in fantasy terms. I've stayed away from him because I have no idea what he's going to be like. He's coming off another injury, and we'll see how up to speed players who get that kind of injuries, a couple of times. Is he going to bounce back again? So yeah, the Tristan Wirfs one is certainly the huge one to me.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, like, Tristan Wirfs isn't replaceable. Chris Godwin, I think, is. I love Chris Godwin, but again, we're probably going to get to the rookies in a moment. But the rookie wide receiver, I think I banged on about every single episode of our pre-draft process. Love the fit in Tampa, Emeka Egbuka. And his training camp has been nothing but hype. The coaches love him. Todd Bowles, someone who's very, very slow on bigging up his rookies, has been nothing but praise through the roof for Egbuka. So when you include Jalen McMillan, you add Egbuka, I think the passing game, it's not going to be as good, I don't think, as last year, probably, but I think you can weather that Godwin miss a lot more than you can the Tristan Wirfs miss. I think he is irreplaceable.
Yeah, it's tough start to the year if they go out worse for a longer period of time. I think there's probably a bit you can get away with it, but yeah, if he starts getting into kind of 5-6 weeks, it becomes troublesome. Headline number 3. Cheers, Joe. X marks the slot. Wide receiver could be hidden gem. First round pick, Emeka Egbuka, has a pair of elite veteran receivers to learn from before becoming the captain in the wide receiver room. I mean, fantasy outlook is the question, so I suppose that question naturally means it goes to you, Byron. What are we expecting Emeka Egbuka to have a good year fantasy-wise, and what are you expecting him to bring to the offense?
Yeah, I think he comes in and hits the ground running. Like I say, all the training camp hype has been non-stop since he got there for rookie mini camps. I think he's a really, really good fit. He's so smart. He's so pro-ready. Again, I would talk about him non-stop. I know during our pre-draft of just like he's the most pro-ready receiver. I had him a second behind Travis Hunter technically, but I had him ahead of Ted McMillan. I just think he's going to be a dream. He goes so late in fantasy currently. I'm just trying to look at where he is on Underdog. It's like wide receiver 60-something, which I think is kind of criminal. Let me look. It might be in the 40s, actually, but it's a way because we're recording.
Yeah, while you're looking, and that is, I guess, is just because of the presence of Godwin and Evans, right, in that offense. Surely that wouldn't necessarily be the case if he landed somewhere else.
Yeah, so he's wide receiver 42. Sorry, it was in the 40s, not the 60s. Chris Godwin is wide receiver 45. But yeah, I would take Egbuka very comfortably there. Trying to picture where you take him ahead of, is kind of your personal preference. In that range, you've got Stephon Diggs, Jacoby Myers, Jordan Addison, Jerry Jeudy. I would probably take Egbuka above all of them. I kind of have it as a wild take that I think he might outscore Mike Evans in PPR, which is a bold take, obviously. But luckily, you don't need to draft him in that range. Mike Evans is wide receiver 18. Egbuka is 42. I just think kind of the sky's the limit. I think he's going to be a starter immediately for the Bucs, and therefore probably for your fantasy teams as well, even if you have him as a wide receiver 3 or a flex. When you draft him at wide receiver 42, you don't need him to be a starter, but we know that rookie wide receivers get better throughout the years. So kind of the best bet you can make in fantasy redrafts is take your rookie wide receivers late, especially first rounders who go in this range. And by the end of the season, we've seen it so many times. These are the guys, Brian Thomas last year, Vlad McConkey last year, Amon-Ra St. Brown a couple of years ago, who just exponentially get better as the season goes along. So I fully anticipate Egbuka being a league winner come the end of the year.
Yeah, he's got that high ceiling compared to them players you mentioned around. Some of them might have high floors, like Addison, obviously with the suspension. But I'm also interested in like Jalen McMillan as well, especially near the end. I think if Chris Godwin is out for some time, I think he certainly flashed last year, and I think Jalen McMillan could have a big year as well, stepping into that role. And Mike Evans is only going to keep hitting 1,000 yards so long in his career. We say that every year, is this going to be the year? Is this going to be the year? And at some point, Paul always loves to draft Mike Evans. It's his guy. So he's going to be here on the tires. So these are the guys to step up. Like you said, it might be more the end of the season as the season goes on as these players step up.
Yeah, love Mike Evans. Any chance, any opportunity to have him, fancy. Anyway, he's only going later and later as well in the drafts, and that's crazy because you know what you're going to get out of him. You're going to get 1,000 yards. You're going to get 10 plus touchdowns. You're going to get a real solid wide receiver option. Egbuka's interesting as well because normally, kind of, especially these first rounds, it tends to always kind of come in after like a monster last year in college. When you kind of look at him, the breakdown, he played 16 games at Ohio State last year because they got all the way to the national championship game. One national champion. How many 100 plus yard receiving games do you think he had?
Oh, 3?
Yeah, I'm going to go 2 just with how you've questioned.
One, yeah. Which is strange, and he's only had one in the last 2 seasons. One of the 2023 season was disrupted by injury, but I think he's very, very good, and I think he's going to be really, really good. But it's just not that, you know what I mean? The huge season that these guys tend to have when they get drafted in the first round, coming into the year. So I just thought, a bit of a quirk of stats and performance. Let's move on to headline number 4. Bucks in the system. Tampa loads up on scheme fits. Draft picks and free agent signings reflect clear vision on both sides of the ball. Are the Bucks clear NFC South favourites?
I don't think they're clear favourites, no. I think if Tristan Wirfs was fully fit, I think it'd be a lot easier to make the case for. Spoiler alert, I don't have the Bucks winning the division. So I obviously don't have them as clear favourites. I understand why they are favourites, but I think, I'm not going to say squeaked over the line last year, but they only got in the playoffs in week 18, if I remember correctly. They didn't smash the division by any means, and that was with a Falcons team carrying Kirk Cousins half the season, then starting a rookie for the last few games. Saints being, well, we know what the Saints were last year, and the Panthers, not much better. So, yeah, I don't think they're clear favourites, certainly. If anyone else wants to comment.
Sorry, you dropped out. I'm not sure. We just talked the Falcons. I'm not massively sold on the Falcons, but they just have a consistency, don't they? The Buccaneers, that they never get too high, they never get too low. I think they've just got a consistency of performance, and they've got, is it 4 in a row they've won now, and they've not done that. But it's not as if they go out and win 12 and 13 games at any point either. They're just kind of 10, 11, around that point. And just in this division, that's good enough, isn't it? Because of the kind of competition around him. Obviously, the clear threat is Atlanta, I think, but I'm not sold on the Falcons again, unsurprisingly.
I would say there's clear separation because the Bucks, Falcons, Panthers, Saints. I feel like they're all on a different journey right now. And you just look at the Bucks Def Squad. When you just look at the starting 11 on both sides, they just look a good footballing team. You just look at that offensive line. You have worst players with Graham Barton, who we all sang praises for a year ago. And you just if everyone starts, they've got Bucky Irving came out of nowhere, obviously getting Teddy Bridgewater in there just for hyping everyone up. But that defense as well, they drafted well. I just like the look of the team. It's they've got the players where it's like Cade Otton. He felt like he came on strong last year, and he's not really been talked about this year. So they've just got them good, solid players with a few excellent players like Vita Vea and Wirfs and the wide receiver. So I just like the whole concept of that team. I'm pretty bullish on the Bucks.
Yeah, they've just got the word I'd use to describe this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. They've got nous. I think that might be the best way to describe it in terms of just kind of those veterans all across the field that just know how to get through games, know how to win games. Not necessarily pretty, but yeah, they've got solid players all over the show, and fully expect them to be to be decent again. We'll see if they can go any further in the postseason should they get there. Right, let's have a look at ins and outs, key transactions. I suppose a lot we've talked a little bit about ins, particularly around rookies. But anyone else kind of that we've not touched on from a free agency or a draft perspective that we're kind of excited to see and we think is going to make a big difference for Tampa this year?
For the second and third round pick, I think they're going to play a big part. Parrish is already scheduled to be the nickel back, and I think I did like Benjamin Morrison. He was one of them where I was hoping the 49ers could need another cornerbacks. I think especially them two are going to play a big part. And we'll see where we get Hassan Reddick, because a year ago he was a trade to the Jets, and we all were excited there. What could he do? And then I feel like this Tampa team have them veterans where they can just get him on the field and playing hard. I think like the Jets didn't quite have that. It feels like the Buccaneers, especially like when you look at some of the players on defense, like Vita Vea and Winfield and Jamal Dean, just like getting them to like, okay, stop with all this nonsense now. Just do what you need to do. And it feels like he has a great year, bad year, great year, bad year. So it feels like this is another up year for Hassan Reddick to get 10 plus sacks for the Bucs.
Yeah, excellent. I think pick up for them just in terms of the locker room push, and you might start getting the best out of Hassan Reddick again. Even though kind of obviously we've not really seen much from the last 12 months or so. Anyone else, Byron? I think call out is going to have a big impact for the Bucs.
Not truthfully, no. I like to say I agree with Joe. The two cornerbacks, second and third round picks, I think are going to be needed and useful early. Certainly hope they're useful if they're going to be playing so much early. But yeah, I think they're going to get in starter snaps very early. So yeah, they better hope they're useful.
Excellent, good stuff. Let's have a look at some lines and odds for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Over under 9.5 wins for Tampa. 21-20 to hit the over. 20-23 to hit the under. Vegas don't know, but yeah, 9.5, 10 wins is kind of where we're at. What have you guys got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at?
I think I mentioned when we did the Falcons. Well, I have the Bucs at 10 wins, so just sneaking the over. Yeah, I've got them at 10 wins. I could see them at 11. I just don't see them getting below 9 wins. So I think they're a 9, 10, 11 kind of team. So I was right in the middle of 10.
Byron?
9 and 8 for me. I think I'd probably have them at 11 if Wirfs hadn't got injured, but I think I swung a couple of those early games away from them.
So that's 9 and 8 not winning the division.
That's correct.
I have them 9 and 8 winning the division.
Yeah, I have the division winners one game ahead, to be fair. So it's not like I have there's no 15 win team in the division, unsurprisingly.
No, you saved that for the Chargers, didn't you? That was your 15-2 prediction.
13 and 4. Rashawn Slater's not helping that today.
No, yeah. So we're speaking Tristan Wirfs left, tackling you. By the sounds of it, he's done. He's just signed that contract.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
The car I don't mind so much in preseason. All his teammates hugging him as he gets on the car, I don't like.
Yeah. Not good. But yeah. Anyway,
that's on the NFC West. So
it's not the AFC West, so that's not what we're talking about. Right, cool. Over under, yeah. So we're all kind of in around that ballpark for Tampa. Let's have a look at to make the playoffs. Yes, odds on to make the playoffs 8-5, 8-5 on. No, 13-10. Have you got them in with your 9 and 8 not winning the division? Have you got them in as a wild card?
I don't know. Must be a tiebreaker. Yeah, it must be tiebreaks. So yeah, I'd rather take the odds against at 9-10, at 13-10. But I'm truthfully probably just not a line I'm betting.
Yeah, fair. And then let's have a look at the odds to win the division. They are favourites to win the division. Of course, even money to win the division. 14-1 to win the NFC. 28-1 to win the Super Bowl. I think in the division winner, maybe win a playoff game. I think that's probably where we are with Tampa.
Yeah,
and that's tough. This was a little bit. It's a tough spot to be because it doesn't feel like they can go any further than that, even though they're a really, really good football team.
I think. Yeah, I'm not saying. I think what I'd feel so much better about them is if they had a real good pass rusher. Like I know Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey are really good tackles, and they can get after the passer. But if they could have, I mean, we're not getting into the Micah Parsons of it all, but like if they could have got like a real premier edge rusher, a Josh Sweat maybe. If they could trade for somebody, I know they're really hard to get. And Myles Garrett, when he was he was never on the trade, but when he was wanting to be traded, I feel so much better about this defense. But Todd Bowles likes to blitz his way to pressures instead, so it's understandable that they don't pony up for it. But I would just feel better if they had that one kind of guy that you think is going to get you 12, 15 sacks. Maybe that's Hassan Reddick. It's kind of tough to believe that he's going to jump back in and to me that he gets double-digit sacks. I'd kind of love to see it because he was a real good player when he was at his peak, but yeah, I think that's kind of the limitation on them. There's nothing stopping that offense.
Yeah. Excellent. Right. That's Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the book. Thanks. Carolina Panthers up next. Bryson Shine, QB, gets a new number 1 toy. Carolina finally give the 2023 overall pick something to work with after drafting wide receiver Ted McMillan, 8th overall. Question is, have they done enough? Is McMillan enough to really help Bryce?
Certainly a good starting point, isn't it? It's big lad. Kind of seems like the next immersion of Mike Evans, Mike Williams, that kind of build, Vincent Jackson. I don't think he's not going to be a Buka who I think is going to rack up receptions necessarily, but I think he's probably more likely to get 10 touchdowns. If Adam Thielen can keep, drinking from the fountain of youth like he has been doing the last couple of years, surprising everybody, I think. Jalen Corcoran, I think, had a really promising rookie season coming out of nowhere. I think he was a new undrafted free agent, if I remember right, at Corcoran. Maybe a 7th round pick, but I think he was a new DFA. Leggett coming into year 2. Hunter Renfrow back and still looking shifty in training camp. He can still run a route. I think he's going to be your Thielen backup. Jatavian Sanders had a kind of interesting end to the career. But the next level for Bryce Young is Tetoria McMillan, T-Mac. He doesn't want to be called Tet. He made that clear. If he can be what they expect him to be, and at number 8 pick, you need to be hitting on it, then yeah, I think wheels up for Bryce Young. He was great in the second half of last season. No reason that can't continue.
Yeah, does it feel like very much like if he doesn't go right for Bryce this year, he's probably done with Carolina and maybe might be done full stop?
It's a really interesting question because
thank you.
If we had said after week 4 or week 5, what are the chances of Bryce Young starting for the Panthers in week 1, 2026? You'd say pretty low, right?
Yeah.
But if you only looked at weeks 11 through 17, week 18, you'd say, well, this guy's obviously going to be starting in week 26. And I think it's really important to not get so hung up on that end of season run because the bigger body of work is that he's not been a good quarterback in the NFL. Is it suddenly a light came on and Dave Canales has fixed him, or is it just a random spurt of good games that, a lot of first-round quarterbacks have had? You look at someone like Blake Bortles, he had spells in his career where he looked dynamite. And ultimately, he was out of the league by end of his second contract. So I'm optimistic for Bryce Young. They're spending a ton of money on the offensive line. I think they're spending more than any team in the NFL this year on the O-line, especially those guard positions, spending a ton on. So that should be a good floor to work from. But yeah, big questions to be asked. I'm more optimistic than pessimistic on Bryce Young, though.
Yeah,
I think he's shown enough to have optimism.
Yeah, I think it's just tricky. It's what you don't want, what the worst one for the Panthers if he's just okay, and they end up getting like the 10th pick. Because it feels like everyone keeps talking about that the 2026 draft is the QB one. There's going to be a lot of quarterbacks available. But if you're picking number 10 and it's just being okay, then you go with another year. Let's do another year, Bryce Young. You want him to take that step and be, he's not going to be a top 12 quarterback this year. I don't think he's going to be a top 50, but can he be a top 20 quarterback, top 18? Can he show some spark where you're like, oh, he could have a Baker Mayfield kind of trajectory where we don't want to give up too early? Canales has worked with Baker, so can he do something else like that where he's just a good solid quarterback? Because there's not every team has a good solid quarterback. A lot of teams would love to have that. So I think he's huge for T-Mac. Can he be that? Ben picked to number 8. Can he make that? Be able to provide what other Panthers need straight away? Because you look at some of the other picks they've made, like I said, the Leggett one looks, it wasn't looking great after last year. Obviously, he needs to step up, being again another first-round pick. I know he's number 32, but you need these players to step up to help out your quarterback, because I don't think he's ever going to be, a top 10, top 8 kind of talent where he can bring people up. I think he's similar to like Baker, where he needs talent around him for him to shine as well. So I think it's a big year for Bryce. Over Dave Canales, I'm curious what happens if they have a bad year.
Yeah. See, kind of Cade Klubnik's probably from Clemson's probably the one. I think they probably won, like, obviously in state already. Well, I guess not in the States, it's South Carolina, but same point. Close enough. If they have a really bad year, then that might be the one. Anyway, obviously here's headline number 2. JC gets the horn. I wrote that. It's terrible. Sorry. JC gets the horn. Cornerback signs for big bucks. JC Horn signs a 4-year, $100 million contract extension to remain in Carolina. Any thoughts on the headline first of all?
Well, I liked it. That's the one you laughed at the most. Was your own headline? So
No, I'm not laughing because it's funny good. Like, it's terrible.
Well, I'm annoyed you didn't go with mine. I put one on the Google sheet and it got disregarded clearly.
Oh, what did you put?
Again.
Panthers feeling horny. JC gets a big contract.
Mate, that was a lot better. Apologies, I didn't see it. Sorry.
Well, that means that you probably missed my next one off as well, which is another great one. So,
mate,
but yeah,
sorry.
JC Horn, he's been great since he got there. Fully deserves his bag. I know Sauce Gardner went out and Derek Stingley went out and got a bit more money, but you get your money when you get it. I think it's just a good decision by the Panthers. Pay the few good players that you've drafted as soon as you can, because you're probably going to have to spend on free agents to get this team to be a playoff contender at some point in the next couple of years, because your drafting hasn't been good enough.
Fair. Yeah, apologies, Byron. I assumed when you were saying you were adding headlines, you were adding them in the Canva and fixing the ones that were already there. So yeah, if you've added any, they've definitely not gone in. Yeah, let's move on to headline number 3. Let's just move past that one. Increased budget spending on defense after being dead last in 2024 scoring defense. Panthers look to make big improvements after splashing the cash in free agency. Yeah, we've kind of discussed this already. Yeah, you've kind of made that point, Baron. Yeah, they don't draft very well, so ultimately you have to go and spend lots of money in free agency. Again, we'll get into it and I suppose in a bit more into details of transactions. But do we think they've done enough to be more competitive?
To be more competitive, yeah. That defense was... it's hard to state how bad that defense was last year, but they had the most rush attempts against them last year. They had 592. They also had the most yards per attempt against them, 5.2. They were the only team that gave up more than 5 yards a carry last year. Their total rushing yards given up against were 3,057. The Saints were next at 2,400. Like, teams just... I don't even know what the passing yardage totals were. I didn't look it up because I just remember every week. Yeah, I mean, passing yardages were 10 for worse, which isn't great, obviously. But you just walk through them week in, week out. It was the easiest putting your fantasy game day lineup every week. Was like, who's playing the Panthers this week? We'll get the running back in there. Maybe have him as captain because it's just so easy. And yeah, they've added a tackle, Bobby Brown. They added Tashawn Wharton. They added Patrick Judd, Roseboom. All stout guys at the line of scrimmage. They added Morik, safety from Vegas as well, who's a hitter. And needs must. Derek Brown went down, and you really might as well have had us 3 on that defensive line because they weren't stopping a single thing. To give up by far the most carries in the league and the biggest yards per attempt, I think is absolutely indicative of that. And yeah, just while I finished talking, my headline was Big D Energy ? Worst scoring defense, go big in free agency.
Yeah, much better. So once again, apologies. Headline number 4. This one's all right.
Yeah.
Can Al as you feel it? Or can Al as you feel it? Maybe better. Culture changing in Carolina. Are the foundations starting to set? Is it time to build upwards? What does success look like this year for the Carolina Panthers?
To me, knowing that you've got a quarterback for the future, I think it'd be wild to say success is making the playoffs. That would be a success, but I don't think that should be the expectation. Success is kind of knowing where you are at the end of the year and what do you need to do to be a playoff team in 2026.
Yeah, I think it's just getting some more young players. I think, like you mentioned, they haven't drafted well, so we'll talk about some of the draft players they got in because I do like it. A couple of them, what they did get in. It's just like, are they actually? Do they have potential, or the Panthers are going to be here again next year? I just worry for. Yeah, team. We mentioned about the defense. It felt like they were in for a lot of the big spending defenders, but didn't get them. So you just always worry that a player's talking and saying, "I don't really want to go to the Panthers." It felt like the Milton Williams, was like going to the Panthers, and then suddenly he went to the Patriots. So it felt like some of the big spenders outbid the Panthers, and is that just because people like, I don't really want to join that organization because it's not going anywhere? So they need to get these young players in to show, we do have a future. We are going to compete in order to get them free agents in to also work with these youngsters. So, again, I think if they win 6-7 games, I think that'd be a success. And like you said, you can certainly see what the plan is going forward for this team, rather than just being back to square one, trying to find another quarterback and in the ever loving draft.
Yeah, excellent. Right, let's have a look at then those moves, transactions. Again, we've talked about a fair few, but again, kind of who are we expecting to make a big difference for the Panthers then in 2025?
I think the two I liked was the Scott and Princely.
Go on, Joe.
Emmanuel. That's a player. Butchered that completely. So I did like them 2 picks in the second and third round because the defense was a big issue, and getting the 2 defensive ends where both of them players it was that weird, like 25 to 70, 80, where it's like they could go anywhere. Like when we did our draft, I'm sure Scorton was in the first round when we did our fans one. And there's a few pretty close there. So I did like them too. Obviously, they've got a hit, they've got to work out, but investing in a position of need to get them defensive edges. You lost Clowney, who, was just a solid player, and you need them solid players around. I also do I'm curious how Etienne's going to play as well. I know they've got quite a few running backs. And what did they retire as well? Was that this year? Who they drafted? His name slipped my mind. He came in with the injury.
Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah. So obviously that was a gamble, didn't quite work out. But you've got Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, Trevor Etienne. So you've got some fun, interesting running backs, and we'll see how that goes. I don't know. Are you expecting big things from Rico Dowdle, or do you see him as the backup as Chuba Hubbard from him coming from the Cowboys?
I think Rico Dowdle can carry a load. His best work last year was when he was getting the majority of the workload in Dallas. So I would love to see him getting more workload. I don't know if he's going to get it in Carolina, though, because Chuba Hubbard has really performed well the last couple of years. And they've just paid him. I think they've got a really nice rotation, though. I think Trevor Etienne, would have went higher in a lot of other drafts. It's such a loaded running back class this year. But 114th overall is not super late for a running back. Dowdle can contribute, and Hubbard can carry a load as well. So I think they do have a really nice rotation. Though the exact players I was going to highlight as well, Joe, those 2 DNs, outside linebackers, I think that was going to be crucial to getting this defense rolling again.
Excellent. Yeah. Key. I'm real sad Rico Dowdle went left
Me
Cowboys. Too. Yeah, I do really should have just kept hold of him. Pretty dumb thing to do, but hey, it's that time of year. Over under for the Carolina Panthers, 6.5 wins.
I am at 6, so just under.
Yeah, are you shocked to see that it's at 6.5? Is that a bit of a high number for the Panthers, given I suppose where they've been recently?
Yeah, it does feel a little high, but they were at 5 last year, and like I said, I've made all the draft picks. We don't know if they're good or not. We think the first 3 should be good fits. But yeah, they were at 5 wins last year, so I can see 6 being achievable, certainly.
And I think it helps, obviously, having the Falcons were 7.5, Bucks 9.5. We'll go into the Saints as well. So it's not like a high scoring division. They've got chances to win them kind of. I've got them as 6 wins as well, actually. So 1 win more than last year, which I think's where I think they're going to end up, like 6-7 wins, which I think will be successful. But yeah, it's right on that mark. But I would probably lean the under, just with, I think they've got a bit more of a tricky schedule of the NFC South this year. I know they've got the NFC West is one of the divisions they're playing.
Yeah, I think it's split again a bit easier early, so they could potentially get some wins early on in the season. They play AFC East as well, so outside the Bills, they might pick up a couple of wins there. Who knows? But yeah, I think it's a bit easier first half, and then it gets a bit difficult kind of halfway onwards. I've got them at 5-12 as well. It's the same as they are last year, so not much faith for an improvement in record, but maybe there'll be improvement in play, I guess, which is probably what you're looking for. To make the playoffs, 40. What an odds number that is. 47-20. I don't think I've ever seen that before. 47-20 to make the playoffs, and no, to not make the playoffs, 16-5 on. So yeah, pretty comfortable that they won't make the playoffs, and we're all in agreement. 4-1 to win the division. 50-1 to win the NFC, and 125 to 1, which feels short to win the Super Bowl. Anything tempting you at all there, chaps? I'm guessing not.
If the division was a little longer, I might be tempted. Because if those rookies hit, and just in this division where 9 wins might win you it, 4-1 feels a little short to me. But I wouldn't be stunned if they won the division. I'd be surprised.
I think I'd be stunned.
I mean, you did have them win the division when they won 2 games, right?
Yes.
3 games, I don't know how many it was. They had the first
Whenever
game
it was.
anyway.
Yeah, I look for worst to first candidate sometimes because it does happen. It does happen. We usually get one, and back the wrong one. I think that's the Bears as well.
They went from worst to worst.
They went from worst to actual worst. Let's go and talk about the Saints. This is the bit you've all been waiting for. If you've tuned in and stayed in, so I'll apologize. Apologies in advance to Jenny. Apologies to the Saints City me guys if you see this, but this might get pretty rough for the next 15 minutes or so. But we've got some good headline puns, I guess. So that might make up for it. More. How do you like it? How do you like it? After waiting in the wings for so long in Dallas, Kellen Moore gets his head coaching shot after pit stops in LA and Philly. What do you make? Kellen Moore finally gets a gig. We thought probably it was going to be Dallas. It seemed like he was being groomed for it. Didn't work out. But what do we think of Kellen Moore as the new head coach of the New Orleans Saints?
Interesting how he does. Mixed success as an OC. Obviously comes in with a Super Bowl ring, so that's always a good thing. But I mean, the Philly structure is set up to win, basically, isn't it? It's going to have it very different in New Orleans. From the line, which isn't the worst in the NFL, I don't think, but it's not the best like Phillies is. And I think it goes downhill from there. So, you don't have Saquon Barkley. Kamara's no schluck, but he's no Saquon Barkley at this stage. And pick a quarterback is no Jalen Hurts. So I think it's a long road to success for the Saints. I don't think really, unless things go Urban Meyer bad in terms of setting a culture, I kind of think any win total shouldn't really be a reflection on Kellen Moore's ability as a head coach. They might come out that way if it's a really bad year, but I think it's going to be a really hard job to judge him on in year one, because I think that roster is lacking.
I think what I worry for him the most, because we feel like this most years that they'll get the first year and they'll be let off and they'll get it. But like, if it's absolutely an absolute stinker and then it's in between him and Mickey Loomis, Mickey Loomis is probably going to keep his job. So there's got to be there seems to be someone to blame. And I feel sorry for him. I understand why he took this job. He felt like no one really wanted it. It was that weird one where everyone would stay away because it's all the draft picks, all the money they've got in players as well, so they haven't got much to work with. It's I hope it's not they've set him up for failure, and this is his only chance, because it's a rough go around when you look at what he's coming into, especially the quarterback position.
Yeah, I think they've got to get through. I think they still need to get through. They're going to have to perform gymnastics again with the gap next year. I think they're already set to be $25 million over the cap next year. I cannot get out from this situation. But then, 2027 onwards, I think they're probably okay. And who do they have to pay? Maybe the lineman, maybe.
Chris Olave, maybe.
Yeah.
Not many.
They don't have anybody, so maybe that's the...
Have they finished paying Drew Brees yet?
Probably not. Yeah, I think they have now. But I think you could probably need to get through this year and next year, and then 2027 might be a better place to be. And I wonder if it would be smart to give Kellen Moore all of that time, I think, regardless of how bad it gets, to be honest, because what you're trying to win with, it is tough. But also kind of Saints fans are pretty demanding as well. So they're such a good team for such a long period of time.
I wonder if it's also like, I don't say bad things about Kellen Moore, but he seems like one of them like head coaches they're getting just to go through the hard times, and then we'll get a sexy paper. once we've got the number 1 pick in 2027, let's get a young hot shot in here and get rid of, because he hasn't got that personality, that kind of oomph which gets franchises excited. To me anyway, that's how it felt like whenever he was going to be the next Cowboys head coach. I don't think everyone was like, woohoo, we can't wait for that. It was a bit like, oh god, we're gonna have more years of Kellen Moore. So yeah, I do.
You think he's not a sexy pick? You just wait till he gets caught grabbing ass and on Bourbon Street somewhere with a giant daiquiri or something. Then he'll be a sexy coach pick. I didn't really know where that was going. Didn't really know where that was going. That's the intro for the episode this week. Didn't really know where that was going for a second. Glad we stopped. Headline number 2. Show or Shook. How are we going? I still don't know. Are we Tyler Shah or Tyler Shook?
Can I throw my headline in here?
Yeah, go on before I read this one.
Shook, Rattler, and Roll call. Second round pick Tyler to be the quarterback 1. Is Rattler set to start week 1? For how long?
Very good.
That was my favourite headline I made this week.
Well done. Shame none of them have gone in because, we're pretty good. We'll just show you how to do the Canva next week and you can write them.
Yes.
But yeah, we'll go with show of faith, old head on rookie shoulders. After Carr's retirement, Saints turn to second round pick, who turns 26 before October. Will age bring wisdom, or does it mask a lack of experience? So he was in college for 7 years, I think. Tyler Shah.
Yeah, was he back up to Justin Herbert at some point?
Yeah, so he's back up to Herbert in Oregon.
Herbert has already had his second contract, right?
Yeah. And so he played 44 games is a lot of college games, but 44 games over 7 seasons isn't a lot of games.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's a question there, really, but
There
I think
wasn't.
this is woeful. Your quarterback room should not have Tyler Shook, Jake Haener, and Spencer Rattler, and no veteran. That is appalling. That is setting yourself up to fail. Spencer Rattler's been out playing Shook through the preseason so far. I know we're very early into it, but that's not exactly surprising, but also not a great sign.
Especially 26 as well. It's not like he's a young 19, 20-year-old coming in. He's a 26-year-old. Like we saw last year, the 24, 25-year-old QBs hit the ground straight away because we were like, oh, they've got the experience. They've got the, the Bo Nix, the Penix Jr.
Bo Nix, who played 1,000 games in college.
Yeah, but like Tyler Shook was being drafted in the second round, and there was some talk of a late first round pick because he's pro ready. He's ready to go now. Like you say, he better fucking be because he's going to be retiring on his second contract. So yeah, if he can't hit the ground running, they don't have a plan.
Yeah,
we've seen Spencer Rattler last year, kind of fun, but not an NFL starter. And Jake Haener, I think, is more suited to being a male model than a NFL quarterback.
Definitely, if Spencer Rattler starts the season, I'll be hammering Saints overs because they're just chaos games when Spencer Rattler plays. They're so much fun. But yeah,
I've gone over under for you. Taysom Hill over under 0.5 starting QB game.
Over. Oh, I don't know about over.
No,
starts. Yeah. I think he'll play quarterback in over 0.5 games. I don't know if he'll start at quarterback in over 4.5. Because he's also recovering from a torn ACL, so I don't know where he is in his recovery. But that second half of the season when
he's playing for Jake Haener. So
I do have some good Saints quarterback stats for you though.
We've not done stats for a while. Go on.
Yeah, we all know the worst quarterback for accuracy in the league the last couple of years is
Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson, correct, Joe. Great start. There's only one quarterback. This is in 2024. Only one quarterback with a worse completion percentage who had 50 or more dropbacks than Anthony Richardson. That's right. It's Jake Haener. There's only one quarterback with under 60% completion other than Anthony Richardson with 200 attempts in 2024.
Derek
That's
Carr.
right. Spencer Rattler.
Oh, was it Spencer Rattler? Sorry.
Yeah, Derek Carr was actually pretty good last year, statistically. Yeah, so Anthony Richardson was 47.7% on both of those. Jake Haener came in under that at 46.2%, and Jake Haener can't move like Anthony Richardson. And Spencer Rattler came in at 57%, better, but the only other quarterback who was under 60%. Yeah. So you don't really want your accurate quarterbacks to be Anthony Richardson and the two Saints guys who are battling with a 45-year-old rookie. It does not bode well at all. Kellen Moore might I think maybe, Joe, you could actually put 0.5 starts for Taysom Hill or Kellen Moore.
Kellen Moore.
Might as well.
I mean, look, take shots at short. I mean, he's not quite Brandon Whedon old, but he's not far away.
Yeah, let's hope he doesn't get lost under the flag like Brandon Whedon did. I think that was his debut. Yeah.
I think my biggest thing with Tyler Shough is like, it felt like no one else wanted him. It felt like it was just the Saints were like, we're going to get him. We'll draft him in the second round. If there's no one, I never felt like anyone else was going to get him.
Yep.
In the top 2 rounds, and his accuracy, all that kind of thing. It feels like he's he's not made for this league. So it might prove us wrong. It might turn into something great. But I have little faith.
Yeah, I did him a disservice as well. He only played 6 years in college, not 7. Apologies, Tyler Shough. Let's move on to headline number 3. It's fun at the expense of the Saints quarterbacks there. Saints go marching for protection. Banks becomes the 4th first-round pick on the offensive line. Will stout O-line be money in the bank for New Orleans, or another year of Bayou to the playoffs?
Bayou to the playoffs.
Bayou to the playoffs. Got it.
Very
yeah,
good,
Bayou. Well done. Delivery.
Right.
A lot of investment in this O-line anyway, isn't it? In terms of that's for the 4th first rounder on there that they've taken.
Yeah, I like Fuaga, like Banks. Penning's getting a move to left guard and seems to be thriving a little bit like Mekhi Becton when he moved to guard. Seems to be doing a lot better. McCoy and Ruiz obviously solid. I think the O-line by itself is pretty solid. I don't think you could make too many arguments against it, really. So keep Fuaga healthy. Banks hopefully comes in and settles immediately. Top 10 pick at tackle you expect him to. A rare bright spot. Good young players.
Yeah, does that give some hope, I think, for the Saints over the next few years in terms of, well, actually, they've kind of got that nailed. We're expecting Banks to be good. Fuaga, what we saw of him last year was decent. Does that actually, we have something really big? We've got a great plus point to build from there from an offensive perspective.
Obviously, if it works, yeah, that'd be awesome. It was like one smart move the Saints. Well, I say one smart move. That's a bit harsh, but yeah, I actually really liked when they picked Banks. He was, I think, a smart move by them. I was expecting to choose like some flashy defensive player, which would have got lost. So yes, obviously if it works out, but offensive lines year to year, injuries and all that kind of stuff, you can't wait too long. But they're doing the right thing. The best teams normally in this league have great offensive lines. So if Kelvin Banks works out, obviously he's going to be compared to all the other tackles taken after him, but I think it was the right pick for the Saints to do at that point. And yeah, hopefully it works out for them because they will have a good offensive line if it works out with the players they've got. And then you just got to pay them all. That'll be the issue. By the time they've got out of cap hell and then, they'll say, we can get a decent offense and a young defense, but we've got to pay all our offensive linemen and, keep adding them years onto Drew Brees' contract.
Hey, you might be better off asking him to come out of retirement to play quarterback. Headline number 4. How have we got 2 marching headline puns? God damn it. Key Saints go marching into retirement. Saints lose. Help me out.
Ryan
Ramczyk, thank you. An LSU legend, Tyrann Mathieu. Can the Saints seek divine intervention from recent mediocrity? Or is it a thing? Or is it a waiting game for 2026 and beyond? And that should really say 2027. But yeah.
Yeah, I think 27 is more accurate. Panthers, we were saying success would be where they are for 2026 if they've got a good stable foundation. Yeah, I think the Saints is probably more 2027 we're looking at. It feels wild to say this in relation to anything, but Arch Manning, Peyton Manning came out and said today he'll be at Texas in 2026, so we can finally all stop making things of like, where will Arch Manning go next year? Everyone kind of think we've consistently said he's going to go back to college. Peyton Manning's come out and said so as well, so we can tick that one off the box for the Saints maybe. I think it would be divine intervention to look at this as a playoff team. So I know we have got an American Pope nowadays, but I don't think he's got that much pull with the big dog upstairs. So I think it's a waiting game right now for the Saints, I think, to be polite.
I think
Pope's a Chicago guy, isn't he, as well?
He is, but, he might take pity on the lowly Saints. We'll see.
I feel like...
If you can get the Bears a 4,000-yard passer, I think that should be task number 1.
Yeah. And I think with the Saints, I think a win would just be no long-term injuries to the young players, basically. Let them have reps, can we have Chris Olave play a full season? You know, he's had a lot of issues, especially with concussions.
Yeah,
You want to keep
no
out
more concussions for Chris Olave, please.
because it is one of them things. Like if he gets another one or two, he'll start thinking about should I leave this game, and then you've lost, your main, young player going forward, and everyone just wants to see Rashid Shaheed just play a full season as well because everyone who's going to his fantasy loves him, and he's a fun player to watch. He was certainly the first. Was it 2 weeks he played last year? And it was just like incredible. He played the first few. Obviously he came back injured, and when Brandon Cooks is your third wide receiver, you're hoping for the first two to stay fit.
Yeah. Just please, God, keep Chris Olave. No more head injuries, please. Just be such a shame because he's awesome.
I did hear Rashid Shaheed's name, though, so I feel compelled to jump in with a couple of Rashid Shaheed stats for us. Because,
they're not for us, are they? They're for you. So
yes, that's exactly what they are.
Him and
so in 2024, most fantasy points per game on deep play action passes last year. So, I mean, it's a pretty good list of who's who. Jordan Addison, Jameson Williams, top the list at 4.7. Jamar Chase, 4.2. Justin Jefferson, 4.2. Rashid Shaheed with Derek Carr, 4.1. Nico Collins, 3.9. That's not bad company to keep.
No Marvin Mims?
No, he's not listed on the top 6. No. Nico Collins is... Rashid Shaheed is fucking dynamite. Got another one for you as well. Dating back to 2010, most receiving yards produced on targets of 25 plus air yards through initial 33 career games. Number 1, no surprise, Tyreek Hill. 920 receiving yards on 25 plus air yard targets through his first 33 games. Number 2, AJ Green. Maybe a bit of surprise, that many, 904. Number 3 in the last 15 years, Rashid Shaheed, 889. He's liquid, he's electric, not things that traditionally go well together, but in this case, you just get more sparkle. Give him a full season. Give him someone who can throw the fucking ball deep. They've got an all-line. Honestly, I have Rashid Shaheed everywhere in fantasy because, of course, I do. Love him, always have. He's a dynamite. He's dynamic. Just get Spencer Rattler in there and sling the fucking ball deep all season. Let's just have fun. You're not going to win any games anyway. What's the difference?
No, win any.
Well, we'll get to win totals.
We'll get to that in a second. Right, let's have a look at transactions for the Saints. At least it's been fun. Anyone who just we've talked about Tyler Show, we've talked about Kelvin Banks. Anyone else kind of from a free agency or a draft perspective that we're looking forward to seeing for the Saints, or who can maybe have a positive influence?
I think Justin Reed will fill Tyrann Mathieu's role to some degree. Not really a sign I'm totally on board with. I think they should have been trying to sign younger players, but you want a base level of competency, I suppose, so it makes sense. I think he's an absolutely fine safety. They've got Justin Blackman in as well at safety. So those two will probably fill Mathieu's role to a degree. It was really sad to see retire. Pleased for him, he's gone out healthy, etc. But always sad to see great players go out. But yeah, I don't think there's that much here, I will say.
I don't mind. I think the Blackman signing's quite good. I mean, obviously we sat there for the fridge for quite a while, so I don't know. It's hard to replace someone like Tyrann Mathieu. Of course, he's been so good for so long, but I don't know. Yeah, I think Blackman and Reed as a partnership could be quite good.
Yeah. Again, I think the defense is just solid. They've just got veterans. And again, it feels like a Saints kind of defense where they perform average. They've got some good veterans, but is it exciting you for the few years going ahead? Probably not. So that's my only issues with the Saints. I would love them to get a lot younger on defense to see where they're going.
But that's hard when you've got Demario Davis, who's 55, and Cam Jordan, who might be nearly 60. It's really tough. Both incredible players, of course. I jest with their age. But yeah, well, fantastic players. Let's go into the lines then. Saints over under 5.5 wins. 13-10 to hit the over, 8-5 to hit the under. Where have you got them, guys?
Under
3 wins.
3?
Yeah, 3 wins.
Jeez,
3 and 14. What was that? Was that too mean, Byron? Do you think? What have you got them at?
Oh, Jaws having 2 more wins than I gave them. So yeah.
You've got 1 win.
1 and 16. Yeah, I think they're appalling.
1 and 16.
Yeah, I haven't. Who do I haven't beaten? Panthers in week 15.
Week 15 as well, so they're going 0-14 for that record.
That's when Taysom gets his start at quarterback.
I'll share mine. Is it bit of breaking news?
Win the division.
Rashawn Slater suffered a torn patella tendon and will undergo season-ending surgery.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Bummer.
It's been an eventful summer. Got divorced, got paid, broke his knee.
Well, hopefully he got that divorce and the pay in the right order.
He did, yes. I bet there was a lot of talk that they were holding off giving him the contract until the divorce got finalised.
Yeah, jeez Louise.
Anyway,
I feel like you're trying to dodge saying the win total for the Saints out loud because Jenny might hear you.
No, 6. I've got 6 and 11.
6 wins.
Yeah.
Who you got beaten? I'm curious with that.
Well, I don't know. I've not got the list.
6 wins.
6 wins, yeah. Let's see. Can I pick 6 wins out? So, beat the Panthers at least once. Giants, maybe. Cardinals, maybe week 1 they'll get a win. They'll probably get a win against Atlanta. Maybe beat Miami and yeah.
Let's
there's
adds up to 6.
I think so. Titans will beat the Tennessee Titans in week 17. There you go. That might be 6. I've got 6.
I don't think they'll lose week 11 either, so I think they're doing well
there. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I think the defense they've got. I think again, defensively they've got enough against, especially against some of these poor teams. Well, they'll keep it quite low scoring in those games. And then, I think, like I say, they can score. They can hit. Well, they are capable of doing just hitting like big plays. They've got a base offense with Olave not getting injured, Kamara. I think they'll be fine.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Right. We don't need to answer the next question. We know they're not making the playoffs. 16. That's the record you've got, Byron. Yeah. 1 to 16 to not in the playoffs.
That's where I got the inspiration. Yeah.
Clearly. 17 to 2. 8.5 to 1. Yeah, 8.5 to 1 to get in the playoffs. 10 to 1 to win the division. 100 to 1 to win the NFC, and 400 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. Any of that tempting?
Nope.
I think they are the longest odds to win the Super Bowl, aren't they? Yeah, 400 to 1.
And they are the shortest odds to have the worst record in football. Which we won't get to in a minute, but we nearly did. I did have that. I had that as one of my bets initially, and I changed it for something slightly juicier odds because 4 to 1 I think is
then
it's a little too short.
Not to piss on your chips. They're not with Bet365.
Well, they are with DraftKings.
Yeah, so worst regular season record: Cleveland Browns, New York Giants, both at 4 to 1, and then just a smidge over 4 to 1 at 17 to 4, the New Orleans Saints. So they're close.
Yeah, DraftKings have it Saints and the Browns at 4 to 1, and then the Giants, like you said, next.
Oh, excellent. Right, let's get best bets. I forgot what we were doing this. So, I'll start. While we've just been talking about the Saints, I have that Olave stays fit all year. If he stays fit all year, he gets 1,000 yards. That's where I'm at, Chris Olave, 37 to 20. Love him. I don't think it kind of matters who's playing quarterback. Chris Olave is still going to get his. And yeah, obviously the injuries are a problem. But I think he had in his 2 full seasons, 119 targets, 138 targets, over 1,000 yards in both. I like Olave to play, to stay fit and make 1,000 yards plus.
Every year of his career, he's had over 2 yards per route run, which is a kind of your base level of elite players. And yeah, every year he's been in the league, he's running over 2 yards per route run. So yeah, certainly seems like a good bet to me.
Yeah, I'm on a lot of Chris Olave in fantasy as well.
Very cheap this year.
Yeah. I think it's an oversight by a lot of people. I think Chris Olave.
And I think the worries about his concussions are perfectly valid, but I could make you a list of the players that aren't 1 concussion away from retirement in the NFL, and it's 0. One concussion can be enough to retire. There isn't bad. concussions. There isn't soft concussions. There's just concussions. If you get one and you don't recover from it right, you're retired. Like, it doesn't help if you've had one before, but like, I don't think that he's necessarily more likely to get one than anyone else. So I'm all in, the very hugely reduced value. He was got in the second round last year of fantasy draft. The quarterback play is a worry, but you're getting him in like the 6th round onwards. Crazy to me.
Yeah, he's awesome. Love Chris Olave, and hopefully has a big year and stays injury free. And the other one, a market that I've never really delved into too much before, but the Atlanta Falcons score a touchdown in every game. They scored 16 off 17 games in the regular season, so this is just a regular season bet, doesn't follow on to the playoffs. Last year, just short of 2-1. I like that. The offense should be decent. They have Bijan Robinson, Drake London. I think they find a way to get in the end zone in every game. Like the schedule, I think I was looking at the schedule, which I suppose is the key thing to look at. I'm worried. I think they play the Niners on Sunday Night Football. I think it's week 7. I'm a bit worried about that. Maybe the Niners might shut them out, but everything else, I think, surely they're scoring.
And like, I don't want to like piss on the Niners or anything, but like, that defense isn't a classic Niners defense. It's very young. Obviously, you've still got Bosa. We'll see if the rookie Michael Williams comes in and hits immediately, but I don't think this is the Niners defense to be scared of on paper. I think that's a really smart bet, 2-1 essentially.
Yeah,
a team that I think is going to be throwing a lot. The defense, I think there's room for optimism with the Falcons defense, but I don't think it's going to be a top 10 defense this year, even if both pass rushers hit. I think that's a nice bet. Yeah, like you say, you've got Drake London, Bijan.
And he's just scored a touchdown in every game as well. So, defense, special teams touchdowns count as well. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, 90. I just thought it was really, really, really good value. Almost 2-1. Next up, Joe, because I can't remember what order you put these in now.
Hello.
Byron, we're back to the usual order. Byron.
Yeah, Saints to go 0-5 to start the season at 9-2. So basically that is lose at home to the Cardinals and the 49ers, which I think they'll be underdogs in both. Lose on the road to the Seahawks and the Bills, which I would put as a banker. And then week 5, they play the Giants in New Orleans, which I can see being touch and go. The Cardinals could maybe be as well, depending on how the Cardinals hit the ground running. But I just think all of them have got better teams than the Saints fairly significantly. They all have a quarterback who you at least somewhat trust, regardless of what you feel about Russell Wilson and Sam Darnold. They are not at the Tyler Shook, Spencer Rattler level of eek. And the Giants' front 7 is ridiculous. So I think that's a really nice bet. I would rather place that at 9-2 than 4-1 on the Saints have the worst record in football. So yeah, that's kind of why I ended up going there. I had a little lean. I was hoping for longer odds on Shaheed to finally hit 1,000 receiving yards, but it was only 4-1. I thought that's way too short for a player I love, but the quarterback's an issue, etc. And then my second bet, leaning on kind of a similar thing to you've just talked about, Drake London to have the most receiving yards in the league at 15-1. The Falcons, Zach Robinson, play caller, basically leaves your receivers on the field the entire time. They play the 3 wide receiver sets, so it'll be Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod, and Drake London on the field all the time. Drake London eats more than anybody in that bunch. He finished 4th in this last year, 1,271 yards. I don't think getting up to 1,500 yards is really anything crazy. Penix is going to be more deep ball thrower than Kirk Cousins. He's more mobile than Kirk Cousins. I think Drake London is another one. He's just an absolute smash for me in fantasy, where he's not going in the first round, but you get him in the second round, even in the third round sometimes. I just think it's an absolute smash. He's going to dominate targets. He's been very good since he came to the league, and last year was kind of like his breakout, and I think it just continues in this year. So 15-1 to have the most receiving yards in the league, I like as a bet.
Did you not fancy the Saints to start 0-13? What the odds were there if you've got that?
They only have it as a 5-game start, but yeah, I'd love to have seen the odds on that.
We'll do like whose line is it anyway for Cardinals Saints? What do you think the line is? Given you talk about them going 0-5. What's
Cardinals Saints?
So that's week 1. That's the only one that's up.
It's in New Orleans. I'll say 2.5 Cardinals favourite.
Joe?
I'll say 3.
6.
The Cardinals
6-point favourites.
Yeah. So
we would know Paul's going for his underdog.
Yes, I'll take Say it's against Carl. I'll take 6 points start at home. Yeah, I didn't say it's might win that game. Anyway, Joe.
Yep. I'll go with my team. I've just got the Bucks to win the NFC South at evens. I do like. There's quite a lot of the teams who are favourites. Usually odds on, so I do like the even money. And I just think the Buccaneers are a step above the Falcons. I just like the we've talked about just all the players and the consistency there. So I like it at the evens. And then we were talking about Jesse Horn. I just saw a nice little 2+ interceptions during the years, 33-20. He's only had 1 year with 2+. He's had a few years with just 1. So it is a gamble, but I thought it's nice little odds at, with 2+, 33-20. So I'll give it a little shot.
I think that's one where just not being able to walk all over them in the run game will help out a lot.
Mhm.
Because if they have to pass the ball against the Panthers, more chance he gets an interception.
Yep.
Like that.
Excellent. Good stuff. Right. That is
Yeah,
the NFC South. Job done. We've one left. 7 divisions down, 1 to go. It's the NFC North, and we are very hopeful of getting a very special guest to join us that we're working on for the NFC North. But we won't speak it, won't share it just in case it doesn't work
I was going to
out.
mention it.
Don't know. Let's try and make it happen first. Well, not try.
Well, we mentioned him earlier, right? Pope Leo.
Hopefully. Yeah. We'll get
I'll put a word out. I asked the big dog upstairs. I haven't heard back yet.
Have you not?
Nah. I'm maybe going to sacrifice a goat, see if that gets us anywhere.
Is that the next logical step?
It's religion. I don't know if we have logical steps in there, but yeah.
All right, let's not
save that for theology. Save it for the theology podcast, yeah.
Yeah, well, the good teams and great teams cover theology special coming to you at some point in 2025. Yeah, thanks to Mark again from the Atlanta Falcons UK show for coming on. Great guest, and we'll be back, with NFC North next week with a potential special guest, so make sure you are watching for that. Follow Good Teams Win Great Teams cover over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Overcast, and then follow us on the socials, Instagram, X, Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky at GTW_GTC, and we'll see you next week for our final division preview.